Week 13 is in the books, but this is not our normal waiver wire show. In this show, we are going to walk you through a playoff primer, talking about every single player with all of the best schedules at every position that is going to win you your leagues once you make playoffs this week. Let's lock it in and let's get into it. But before we do, here's a quick reminder of what I put out last week, these high upside handcuffs. The 5 players in front of me on the screen are players who have league winning potential and are just one injury away. We are in the dark part of the season. Players' bodies are worn down, they're broken down. These running backs have been seeing a huge amount of volume. We're seeing it with Breece Hall already. We saw Blake Corum actually take the first series, although it didn't last the rest of the game. These are players who are under 50% rostered, and this is what your bench needs to look like. You need to have players like this ready to go for that injury so that you can go in and win your league in the final few weeks of the season. League winners come out of nowhere. So let's start off our playoff primer with the quarterback position, and these are the 5 teams with the best strength of schedules for the playoffs going into week 15, 16, and 17. These 5 teams actually at the quarterback position, we are not in this season with the teams that have amazing playoff schedules. It's generally pretty low scoring offenses, but there are some gems here to look at. So the Titans, the Bucks, the Giants, the Panthers, and the Raiders are the teams that you need to be looking at in terms of quarterback schedule going into these last 3 weeks of the season. You can see teams repeated here quite a lot. There's a lot of Jaguars, there's a lot of Panthers, of Cowboys. We really want to be targeting those really terrible defenses to make sure that our players have upside to absolutely go off. Winning your titles is not about getting 10 points, it's about getting 20 to 30. So we need to be targeting terrible defenses where there's a chance that our players can hit those marks. So who do you actually want to target? What can you do with this information? Well, the 3 quarterbacks that I've pulled out, I've no interest in the Giants quarterbacks, whoever it's going to be, or the Raiders quarterbacks, whoever that's going to be, even though Aiden O'Connell did have a good week last week against the Chiefs. The 3 that I've pulled out, Baker Mayfield is most likely rostered, right? But these can all be players that you can trade for instead of just players that you can pick up off the waiver wire. Will Levis has a really good schedule, and that offense is starting to come together a little bit. They're always going to be playing from behind, so there's a lot of garbage time, and Will Levis has looked a lot better, but the main player that I want you to target here is a player who's looking a hell of a lot better. Dare I say it might be playing like the best second-year quarterback right now. Bryce Young has come back and exploded. He was the quarterback 14 last week against the Chiefs, the quarterback 7 this week against the Bucks. But more importantly, he looks like a different player. They have changed the offense to work to his strengths. They are scheming around him. He's showing some of that rushing ability as well, some of that mobility that we saw at Alabama. The playoff schedule is absolutely elite. As you heard me say beforehand, the Cowboys, the Cardinals, and then the Bucks again. He just had a QB7 finish against the Bucks. I am a believer in Bryce Young in Dynasty. I'm probably going to mention him in my video on Wednesday. If you hit the notification bell to check that out when it comes out. But he's only 14% rostered in 1 QB leagues. If you look across the league, if you currently have someone like a Justin Herbert, a Kirk Cousins, a Matthew Stafford, Geno Smith, I would be happy to move on from them to Bryce Young. I think this kid has got it, and I think he's going to be exceptional down the stretch this season. Bryce Young, league winner. You heard it here first. Now, this is the part of the video where I normally ask you to like and subscribe. And hey, if you're enjoying this content, if you want to get on board, if you want to join my journey, please feel free to and click that button down below. I also answer every single comment. But instead of my regular plea, I'm going to make a little bet with you. You don't have to like and subscribe. You don't have to at all. But if you pick up one of the players from this video and they help you win your championship, you have to come back and you have to click that button. Okay? Bets on. Let's go with it. On to the running backs. So the running back schedules, and you'll notice it's a lot of the same teams here. We have the Jets, the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Lions, and the Raiders. Now, that Lions schedule is absolute cheeks. That is absolutely fantastic for them down the stretch. But there is no way you are getting Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery for cheap, or obviously not off waivers. But if you can go and target them for the playoffs in Dynasty, in redraft, if you can trade for them, they are going to be league winners, but they already are. But some of the other players you might be able to target, Jets, Cardinals, Panthers, and Raiders, definitely there's some availability there. Obviously, we're not going to get Breece Hall or James Conner. Chuba Hubbard as well, probably unavailable, but those are cakewalks of schedules, and there are some great targets for us off the waiver wire that we can go and pick up that are going to win leagues. So the players that I want to target, you can see in front of you here, Braylon Allen as that classic one injury away type guy. Trey Benson, basically exactly the same. If the starter gets injured, these guys have great schedules and you can go and get them. Then on the Raiders side, I've noted Alexander Mattison and Zamir White. A lot of people will have dropped these guys to waivers over the last few weeks because they've not been healthy. They both should be coming back this week, and there's a chance that these guys, if one of them can take control of the backfield, when there's not a huge amount of options outside of Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, if one of them can seize control of the backfield, probably Alexander Mattison the target there. They absolutely could run all over a team with the schedules that they have. But the guy that I want you to go out and pick up, the guy that I think could be a league winner, is Jonathan Brooks. He's just had, it's the biggest workload of his career. He had about 5 touches against the Bucks last week, just yesterday. But Chuba Hubbard fumbled in a really crucial moment. This team is starting to prepare for 2025. I think they're locked into Bryce Young as the starter, but they might want to test it out with Brooks to see what they have, to see if they want to roll with him as their RB1 next year ahead of Chuba Hubbard. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more workload going his way down the stretch as he gets healthier, as he gets more acclimated with the offense as well. He's a better pass catcher than Chuba Hubbard as well. So we've already seen him get some of that third down workload and some of that goal line workload. So those are the big touches, and teams don't take crucial fumbles lightly. So I wouldn't be surprised if Chuba Hubbard ends up sitting on the bench for a little bit and they just see what they have with the rookie. The first 2 players that I've highlighted have been Panthers. Huge props to them for turning it around. That is incredible. 2 Panthers as potential league winners. Time to go to the wide receiver position, and again you can see a few familiar names, but some more exciting ones there as well. The Raiders, again, the Giants, the Packers, the Bears, and the Titans. Now these are all teams who are playing terrible pass defenses, so you can see the Jags featuring quite a lot, the Falcons featuring quite a lot. This is Aggie coming by. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Aggie. Then obviously there's a few slightly better teams here as well, particularly with the Packers featuring, but the Bears wide receivers, that offense is coming to life a little bit. So there's definitely some players to target looking at that offense. But let's have a look at those players to target. So which players do you actually want to target? Well, we're going to kick off with Jacoby Myers. This is the wide receiver 27 on the season. He was wide receiver 22 this week, wide receiver 10 last week. Hello again, Aggie. He is only 85% rostered. People are a little bit slow on Jacoby Myers because it's not that sexy of a name and because it's behind Brock Bowers. But wide receiver 27, despite missing 2 games and having Devontae Adams at the beginning of the season, is very exciting. Rome Odunze, probably a more exciting name, but has played slightly worse, not really been involved in the offense too much. Teams that don't have much to play for like to get their rookies involved down the stretch, and I would expect the Bears to do so for Rome Odunze. They should. He is incredibly talented. That's why they took him 9th overall in the draft just gone. Calvin Ridley, you're going to have to trade for, but his teammate, you might still not. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is on an unbelievable pace. I am convinced that this guy does not exist. I think he only appears in red zone highlights, but 8 touchdowns in the last 7 weeks. He is absolutely incredible at finding the end zone. This is a league winner every single week. And then Dontavian Wicks, again, you're basically placing a bet on someone else getting injured in the wide receiver core. You can replace Wicks with Christian Watson, with Romeo Doubs. They are all available in some leagues, but they do have league winning upside with the schedule that they face coming up. Then the tight end schedule for the best playoff assets: the Cardinals, the Titans, the Browns, the Cowboys, and the Bucks. Now, obviously, there's a few very high value players here in David Njoku and in Trey McBride. These guys are going to be absolute league winners. Trey McBride especially. If he could score a single receiving touchdown, he'd be in conversation for the Dynasty tight end 1, and he's already up there as well with Brock Bowers. This is probably the hardest one to to trust in terms of playoff strength of schedule, because teams being good against the tight end, people use their tight ends in lots of different ways. If you were good at potentially, if you were good at stopping Mike Gesicki in the same way you were good at stopping George Kittle, those are different players. One's a wide receiver and one's basically an offensive tackle who can catch. So it's a little bit hard to trust, but these are the 5 teams that I would be targeting for their schedules in the playoffs. Then the tight ends that I would target, again, Cade Otton is probably going to be rostered, but you might be able to make a trade for him. Chigga is someone who is a deep play threat in an offense without many options outside of Calvin Ridley, so he's liable to go off potentially once a game. He did the other day. I found myself out at tight end, and he went for a 74-yard touchdown on his one target and his one reception for the day, which was brilliant. That won me a week. So the 2 players that I'd be looking for, Jake Ferguson is 54% rostered and Luke Schoonmaker is just 16% rostered. Now, we know that the Cowboys offense is obviously currently playing pretty terribly and playing with Cooper Rush at quarterback, but they still have to play games. They still have to throw the football. They don't really have anything outside of CeeDee Lamb that they can rely on. Luke Schoonmaker in the last few weeks, tight end 10, tight end 9, tight end 25 against the Giants, but that was a pretty terrible game. If Ferguson is still going to be sidelined with a concussion, and this is the time of year that the Cowboys might start shutting down slightly unhealthy players like Ferguson, then I would be targeting Schoonmaker. There's a reason that he's the player that I've highlighted here, although I wouldn't blame you if you didn't know the difference between Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker. I added a picture of Jake Ferguson when I meant Schoonmaker because I don't know what either of them look like, but Schoonmaker potentially has really high upside going into the last few weeks with a really good schedule and with a hole in that offense for a second passing option. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Those are the players that you can pick up off waivers or trade for that are going to be league winners this year. And remember the bet that we made. If any of these players wins you a league, you have to come back and you have to subscribe and you have to like videos and you have to post comments, and I don't really know what else you can do on YouTube, but if you want to message me on Twitter and say thanks, that's always quite nice as well. Have a great time. Good luck with your waiver pickups this week. I hope you smashed week 13, and I will see you next time.